Hello guys, today we'll be starting a brand new chapter, chapter 4, and chapter 4 is about percent, ratios, and rate. Okay, so I want you to make sure you write down chapter 4 in your notebooks to show that we're starting a brand new chapter. And today we'll be looking at 4.1, the first lesson, relating fractions, decimals, and percents. So make sure you write down 2 of these titles to keep your notes nice and neat. Today, like I said, we'll be looking at fractions, decimals, and percent. This is a quick little review. None of this is new. You guys reviewed it you guys learned it in grade 7. So we'll be going through it a little bit fast. And we'll be learning how to convert fractions to decimals, decimals to fractions, and both to percent, and percent back to fractions and decimals. Okay, so take a minute, write this down. When you're ready, we'll move on. Okay, so like I said, no need to write this down. I just wrote this out so you can see all the conversions we'll be learning. We will be going over changing fractions to decimals, changing decimals to fractions, and then taking decimals or fractions and changing to percent, and then going the other way, percent to decimal or fractions. So I have this lesson broke down into 4 different sections. And let's start with the first one, fractions to decimal. Okay, so I want you to write this down. Make sure you write down this subtitle here, changing fractions to decimals. So a fraction just represents division. So for example, if we had 4 over 5, that's the same as putting 4 divided by 5 into your calculator. Okay, we can just use our calculator to change fractions into decimals by just using this fact that we know that 4 divided by 5 4 over 5 represents division. So I'm going to get my calculator there, and then when we come back, I'll show you exactly how to put it in. Okay, so I just got my computer calculator here. Alright, so we're going 4 over 5, so we'll go 4, and this is a symbol for divide. 4 divided by 5 equals 0.8. So to change a fraction to a decimal, simple. We just use our calculator. Okay, take a moment, make sure you write down these facts. Okay, you can probably underline here. We just use our calculator because that's the main thing here. When you're ready, we'll move on to the next one. Okay, by now you should have these notes down. Okay, so I want you to try now in your calculator and try as we go along. You don't need to pause the video because this will only take a few seconds to do. So changing fractions to decimals, 1 over 8. Okay, which is 1 divided by 8. Try it on your calculator. 1 divided by 8 should be 0.125. 15 over 60. So if we want to change that to a decimal, 15 divided by 60, 0.25. And 7 over 9, plug it in, 7 divided by 9. Okay, so this one's a little bit tricky. We have a repeated decimal is what it's called. So the way we write that is 0.7 with a line over the top of 7, which represents that this 7 is a repeated decimal. So that's how we write something like that if the fraction comes out to be something like this. Okay, when you're ready, I want you to try this one here now. Now don't be alarmed, this time we have an improper fraction. We have a bigger number on top, smaller number on bottom. Just plug it in, 21 divided by 2 equals 10.5. Still a decimal, doesn't always have to have 0 first. Okay? It's still a decimal and it's still fine. Alright, if you had any questions about changing fractions to decimals, please let me know before we move on. If you're fine with that and using the calculator, we're good to move on to the next section. So, that was a fraction to decimal conversion. So how about decimal to fraction? So here I got 3 different examples, and we'll go over these more in depth now in a second. So 0.8, that can be written as a fraction, 8 over 10. Some of you guys might recognize that already. 0.88 could be represented as 88 over 100. And 0.8 888 could be represented as 888 over 1,000. So if you see why that is, that's great. Okay, there is a connection here to why I chose 10, 100, and 1,000 on the bottom. Do you see why we done that? Take a guess. And then we're going to move on and see if your guess is right. Okay, so here's the notes I want you to write down. So changing decimals to fractions. Use your place values that you learned in elementary. Okay, so we remember our ones place, and after we had our tenths place, or 1 over 10, our hundredths place, thousands, and 10,000s, and so on. The next one will be 100,000s, then it'll be millions. All these represent as 1 over 10, 1 over 100, 1 over 1,000, and it keeps getting bigger. Bigger denominator on the bottom here. So, I want you to write down these steps. So the steps to convert decimals to fractions is that you look at the last digit in your decimal. The last digit will tell you the appropriate place value, and we'll see an example of this now in a second. We then write our fraction, and we simplify that fraction if we can. So pause the video if you need to finish writing this down. If not, I'm going to show you an example. Okay, so changing decimals to fractions, our first example, 0.012. So our first step, I'm going to actually copy and paste my steps over here so you can see them and you have them here in your notes. Okay, so steps. Look at the last digit in your decimal. So here's our last digit, and it is in the thousandths place, or 1 over 1,000 place. So we choose the appropriate place value, which is this one. Then we write our fraction. So how we write our fraction, we have 1 over 1,000 on the bottom. So 1 over 1,000 on the bottom. And then we just write the number on the top. So here we have 0.012. And we just go here and we write down what do we have without our zeros? We have 12. So it's going to be 12 thousandths, or 12 over 1,000. Okay, and then we simplify this if we can. Okay, so the way I would simplify this, I would start, well, I see 12 is an even number and 1,000 is an even number. So I'm going to go 12 divided by 2 to give 6 on top. And 1,000 divided by 2 is 500. And then we can divide both of those by 2. Well, 6 divided by 2 we know is 3. And 500 divided by 2 is 250. So just double check. Is 250 divisible by 3? Can we simplify this any further? No, it's not divisible by 3. So this is our simplified fraction. So our decimal 0.012 is the same as 3 over 250. Okay, I want you to try these now on your own. Pause the video. When you come back, we'll check them over together. Okay, so by now, you should have these attempted. So, 0.03. So, we look at our place value, 0.03. So, we know that the denominator is going to be over 100. Okay, and we just use our number on our top, 3 over 100, and that cannot be simplified any further. So that is our fraction. Okay, check out this one, 0.5, 0.5, that's going to be over 10. Okay, and then we have 5 on top. So this could simplify to 1 over 2. And some of you guys, this one's a very familiar decimal. Some of you guys might recognize that 0.5 is the same as a half, which is fine as well. Okay, next one, 0.78. So it would be 0.78. Okay, our last digit is in the hundredths place, so we know our denominator is 100. So 78 over 100. And can that be simplified? Well, we know 78 divided by 2 is 39. And 100 divided by 2 is 39 over 50. And I believe that's as simplified as it can go. Yes, it is, because 50 is not divisible by 3. Yes. Okay, so that's good. Alright, this one 0.004, 0.004. We know 1,000 is our denominator. And we have 4 here on top. That can be simplified. These are both even numbers, so right away we can divide both the top by 2 and the bottom. And then we can also divide both of these by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 500 divided by 2 is 250. You can check as well by going backwards with this. So I can take, remember we can use our calculator to go fractions of decimals. So I'm going to go 1 divided by 250. Did I do that one correct? Yes. It equals 0.004. Good. So if you got all those right, great. If you had any difficulties with those, please let me know, or see a friend and see if a buddy can help you out. Okay, so one more little example, and I want you to write this down. This is a little trick. Okay, sometimes you'll be asked to convert decimals to fractions, and the decimals might have a whole number, or sorry, not a whole number, but something in the ones digit or even the tens digit. Okay? So don't be confused. It doesn't always have to be a 0 here. We still use our same rules. And our rules are, our steps. Our steps is to look at the last digit in your decimal. So the last digit would be 1.56. So it would be 1.56. Alright, we choose the appropriate place value. We choose our hundredths, because that's where our last digit is. And we write our fraction. So we know that there's 100 on the bottom because of this little trick. And then we just write our fraction. We start at our last digit and we write it backwards until we get to all zeros. So we go 6, 5, 1. 156 over 100. Okay, and we're going to leave that like that for right now. You can simplify that. You can also change it to a mixed number, but this will be fine. On a test, I'll specify if I want it simplified as far as possible. Okay, so 156 over 100. And does this make sense? Yes, because 156 is greater than 100. So if we wrote that as a decimal, it would be greater than 1 whole. Okay? If you have any questions about that, please let me know. And if not, we're ready to move on to a new conversion. So changing fractions or decimals to percents. I want you to write down the subtitle and then write down these 2 little notes here and examples. So to change a decimal to a percent, just move your decimal place 2 places to the right and use your percent sign. Okay, so this is pretty familiar. A lot of students catch on to this one quickly. So 0.45 is the same as 45%. We just move our decimal 2 places to the right, and then we use our percent sign. So to change a fraction to a percent, so this time we're given a fraction, we just change our fraction to a decimal using our calculator trick. And then we just do the same as above here. So it's just one little extra step, But that step's not too hard because we just use our calculator. So if I had 4 over 5, I have 4 divided by 5 equals 0.8. I move my decimal 2 places to the right. 1, 2. There's nothing here written, but we know that there could be a 0 there. It's the same thing, only written in a different way. So that can help you out with your place values and moving your decimal. So 1, 2. Then we add our percent sign, 80%. Okay, I want you guys to write these examples down in your book, and we're going to do them together. Okay, so we're going to change these decimals to a percent. So what's our rule? We move our decimal 2 places to the right. 1, 2. And then we add our percent sign. So that's going to be 1%. Okay, I'm going to do this one here next. So we move our decimal 2 places to the right. 1, 2. So we got 67%. Alright, now the two on this side are a little bit trickier. We follow the same steps though. Move our decimal 2 places to the right. 1, 2. So our new decimal is here. So that's actually 0.5. Okay, and then we add our percent sign, so it's 0.5%. Alright, and here we have a number that's greater than 1. We have a digit in our ones place value. So just follow the same rules. Take our decimal, move it 2 places to the right. 1, 2. So we have 235 now instead. And we just add our percent value. And yes, sometimes we can have percents that are over 100. Okay. Now, I want you to change these fractions to percent, and we'll go along. Alright, so the first step is to change these into decimals. Okay, so 60 divided by 100. Okay, some people might be able to look at that right away and say that's 60%, which is great, but I'm going to follow my steps. I'm just going to go 60 divided by 100 equals 0.6. My next step is to move my decimal 1, 2 places to the right. We could put a 0 here. It's not going to change the value. It's going to be written in a slightly different way. So 1, 2, that's going to become 60%. Okay, now we have 1 over 8. This one's not as easy as this one. We're going to have to change to a decimal first. So 1 divided by 8 equals 0.125. So to change to a percent, I move my decimal 2 places to the right. 1, 2. So I'm going to have 12. My decimal is now in between the 2 and the 5, so 12.5. And add my percent sign, 12.5%. Alright, 8 over 9. This one's a bit more tricky again. So 8 divided by 9. We get 0.8888. So 0.8 repeating. Okay, so in this case, when you're changing to percent, you can round. So this is the same as 0.88, so on. I'll draw another 8 in there. 8, so on. So I move my decimal 2 places to the right. 1, 2. So we have 88.8. But we have an 8 after this, so this is actually going to round up to 88.9%. Okay, if you have any questions about these, please let me know. And please write these examples in your exercise book so when you're studying you can come back and reference these. Okay, almost done, guys. This is the last conversion we're going to do, changing percents to fractions or decimals. So we're just going the other way now. So it's pretty simple. To change a percent to a fraction, you just write your number over 100. then you can simplify if you can. Okay, so we know by the definition of percent is how much out of 100. So for example, on a test, if you got 11% and you had 100 questions, that means you got 11 right out of 100. So that's why we put it over 100. So 11%, we drop our sign and go 11 over 100. That's how you change percents to fractions. Just put it over 100. Okay, so make sure you write that note down. And to change a percent to a fraction, you just move your decimal 2 spaces to the left. You go in the opposite direction this time. So the decimal always exists at the end of a number if it's not already written in there. Okay, so we just go 1, 2. Our decimal moves 2 spaces to the left, so 0.80. Or you can drop this 0 at the end and write it as 0.8. Okay, so just a few examples now. Write them down in your book. We're going to quickly do them together. Or you can give them a try on your own first, and then after you can check over the answers with me. Okay, so quickly, change to a fraction. 50% is 50 over 100. Or we can simplify that to 1/2. Which makes sense. If you got 50% of the questions right on a test, you got half the questions right. So 75% equals 75 over 100. Okay, and 75 over 100, if I wanted to simplify that, I could divide the top and the bottom by 5, but from practice, I know 75% is the same as 3 over 4, 3/4. Okay, 99% is the same as 99 over 100 if we want to write it as a fraction. And that's actually as simplified as it can go. And 120, don't be alarmed, we have a number bigger than 100, but the rule still applies. You follow your steps. 120, you write it over 100. Okay, so 120 over 100, we can simplify that. We can drop our zeros here. We have a 0 on the top and a 0 on the bottom, so that can become 12 over 10. So 12 over 10, or 6 over 5, or 1 with 1 over 5. You can write it as a mixed number. Okay, if you have any questions about these, please let me know or check with a buddy. Don't move on until you feel pretty confident about these here. Okay, and last is changing to a decimal. Again, very easy. We're just going to move the decimal at the end of our percent over 2 places to the left. So 1, 2, this becomes 0.50, or just 0.5. $75, move our decimal over 2 places, 1, 2, 0.75. This one becomes 0.99. And 120, if we move that over, 1, 2, decimal lies between the 1 and the 2, so we have 1.20. Or just 1.2 if you want to write it like that. Okay, now we're ready to do some practice work. This looks like a lot of practice work, but a lot of them are pretty simple. For example, all of these questions only took about a second to do each, so they won't take you too long. In your notebook, make sure you write down the page number and what numbers I want you to do, so you don't have to come back to the video. So good luck with this practice work, and please let me know if you have any issues.